Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to One Hub Racing here for round number 9 of the P2 Championship as we take in the Shakir circuit here at the Bahrain International Circuit. We're in Shakir. It is, of course, myself, Michael Edwards, going to be taking you through the action along with Colin Mason. How's it going, Col?
Hiya, Mikey. How is everyone? Well, Mike, we've had the real F1 Bahrain Grand Prix. Time for One Hub's turn.
Exactly, and of course, looking at the circuit, of course, of which we will be racing at here tonight. Of course, it is the Bahrain International Circuit in the deserts of Shakir. It is going to be 29 laps, 15 corners, 6 to the left and 9 to the right. The 5.4 kilometer circuit in length, 3.3 miles. Sports 3 DRS zones called, one down at turn 1, one in towards turn number 4, and one in towards turn number 11. And that's going to provide a very different dynamic to what we had last week in Suzuka. There's plenty of overtaking opportunities around here, Cole.
Yeah, what a different track, isn't it, compared to Suzuka? Like you said, Mike, plenty of places to overtake. I expect to see a lot of overtaking done this evening. Track limits, though, Mike, can be an issue around here. And, of course, the tricky turns 9 and 10.
Absolutely, of course, that double left-hander, as you mentioned, at turns 9 and 10 can catch a lot of people out. And if you are running no ABS, that corner is an absolute nightmare to get right because it's very easy to lock up the tyres as you're braking and turning at the same time. But we've seen many fantastic races, not only in the virtual world, but also in real life around here as well. Who can forget I believe it was 2014 where we had the duel in the desert between the two Mercedes and back in the day. What's called, like, we've seen so many fantastic results around here. You know, Sergio Perez getting a podium in the Racing Point, and of course we've seen some big incidents around here. Of course, who could forget Roman Grosjean's infamous collision with the wall a few years back.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that as long as I live. I was actually out having Sunday dinner with my wife. So I actually had it on record, and one of my mates messaged me and he went, "Don't worry, Col, he's alive." I thought, what in the name of hell's going on here? But just goes to show, you know, the modern Formula One cars, how safe they really are, Mike. And, you know, that halo, as much as we might not like it visually, it's literally a lifesaver.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And obviously looking at the track tonight, Col, of course, the 3 DRS zones, we're going to see a lot of, I think, overtakes down in towards turn number 1, but it's very easy to get the position back if you get a good run through turns 2 and 3, because that second bit of DRS on the run down at turn number 4 could provide like a bit of a slingshot back and forth between lead cars and battling cars in the pack, because those 2 DRS zones, in my opinion, are the 2 crucial DRS zones. The one from the exit at turn 10 to turn 11 it's not really as powerful as the other 2, in my opinion. It's more of a case of, if you get a good run out of 10, you can have a look down the inside, or maybe try to hang it around the outside of turn 11.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's another one of those tracks where you want to stay in that DRS train as well. If you get out of it, you're going to struggle. So it's going to be really, really important. So qualifying here, Mike, not as important as last week, though.
No, absolutely not. And unlike last week, I'm sure the drivers will be very thankful for this, but it is going to be dry, Col.
Yes, so we got a dry quali and we got a dry race. So this is all going to be about, for quali, full hell for leather. Try and do the best lap time you can. Don't forget, we do lobby restarts, so they can choose the softer strategy for the start of the qualifying and get 4 runs, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, heading into tonight, Cole, I mean, let's have a little look at the championship standings. Rich 500 leads the way in the championship. He's on 117 points, 17 points ahead of his teammate, who has now climbed up to second place on 100 points, Jay Luke. Of course, with the victory last time out in Suzuka. Jess currently third in the championship on 88 points. Then, of course, we got Salu with a big mid part of the season. He's been able to climb himself up into fourth in the championship on 78 points. Tied at the moment with Quinn, who is also on 78 points. He is in fifth. Joe in sixth on 76 points, 75 points for Funky in seventh. Very close between from Jess down to Funky Cole. Papa Squanch on 62 points in eighth. Cowboy in ninth on 55 points. And Leroy in 10th on 50 points exactly. But looking at the top end of the championship, Jay Luke, since coming back to One Hub, has been absolutely incredible. Of course, he came back in at round number 4, took a race win. Round number 5, of course, he took a race win in the main race. 2 back-to-back second places at round 6 and 7 in the feature race. And of course, the race win last time out in Suzuka has really put himself in that championship picture.
Oh, 100%. And I got to apologise to poor old Jay Luke because I basically called him a plonker last week for his strategy, and it turned out to be perfect and genius-like. So sorry to Jay Luke. We were having a good laugh about it in DMs the following evening. And it just goes to show, Mike, how important it is to have that extra little bit of room in your brain to think about things like strategy, and that's exactly what Jay Luke did last week, which gave him the victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, speaking of Jay Luke, we called him into the drivers' press conference and we put the question to him. Welcome. It's fair to say, since you returned to One Hub, you've done extremely well despite missing the first 3 races. Do you feel you have a chance of winning the title? How many points do you think you're going to need from the last 4 races in order to do so? Jay Luke responded saying, I am still amazed at the run of results I've had since returning to the league. The push to catch up has definitely not been an easy one, and safe to say Rich will fight harder than ever to preserve his championship lead. There's a chance I could snatch it from him, but with the points gap he still has right now, I'll have to consistently outperform him in the races to come, which will not be easy. I'm going to have to score potentially at least a podium every race whilst finishing ahead of Rich if I to have any chance to catch him in the standings. And judging from the pace that Jay Luke has had so far this season, it seems he is very much on course of doing that.
Yeah, I think so, Mike. I think all the pressure is certainly on Rich at the moment. He can't afford any mistakes. You know, Jay Luke he knows what he's got to do. He's just got to go out there, make sure he gets consistently on the podium, make sure he's ahead of Rich. But it's always easier being the chasing driver than the guy in the lead, I always think, especially when the gap is completely tumbling like it has to the last 3 races. But anything can happen, Mike. You know, one small mistake from either driver and it could be curtains.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we are here for another duel in the desert between the 2 Mercedes, that is for sure. And obviously, we've gone for the top 10 of the championship standings. Looking outside the top 10, Jamie in 11th on 46 points, 36 points for Proverb in 12th. Mason, JR Mason in 13th on 34 points, 33 points for Matthias in 14th. Catherine in 15th on 29 points. 14 points for Geese in 16th. Skrillex on 11 points in 17th. M125 in 18th on 7 points. Good result for him last time out in Suzuka. Obviously, we've had Ghost, Anthony, and Felix leave the league. Then, of course, we got James in the Hassies on no points in 22nd. Kenzie also leaving the league. And then, of course, Trash Panda still on that -3 points. And what that looks like in terms of the Constructors' Championship call. I mean, Mercedes, 222 points. The nearest rivals is Alpine in second. They're on 154 points. It's essentially Mercedes Championship wrapped up at this moment in time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, mate. Yeah, you're dead right. I can't see Alpine catching them now. So their focus is basically they're pretty convinced now, those two drivers, that they're going to get the constructors. So their sole focus now is the drivers. But there's a lot to play for the rest of the positions. Like there's only what have we got, 26 points between Alpine and Ferrari, with Red Bull just a little bit further behind in fourth.
Yeah, absolutely. Ferrari, as you mentioned, in third place, they're on 128 points. The Red Bull Racing Team on 117 points. And just doing a fantastic job of scoring consistent good points enough for the Red Bull team, with Catherine being out of action for the past couple of races. The Visa Cash App Racing Bulls in fifth on 88 points. They're 2 points clear of Aston Martin in sixth on 86 points. 80 points for McLaren in seventh, and that's another interesting battle between those three teams. Only 8 points separating those three teams. Haas are in eighth, they're on 62 points. Then we have Williams on 33 points, and 21 points for the Sauber team, currently at the tail end of the points call.
Yeah, so they've had a bit of a up and down season, really. They've really struggled. M125, I was expecting to see him perform better, quicker than he has. Obviously, he's been a bit away from the game a little bit, but he had a great result out last week, getting, I think it was fifth, Mike.
Yeah.
So that would have helped rocket them up, and I think that would give M125 a bit of confidence as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, M125, since his return to the P2 tier after opening up in the season in P1, it's been a very difficult start to his P2 campaign, but maybe that P5 in Suzuka will get him going in the right direction. But Cole, we got just under 10 minutes to go remaining in qualifying. And surprise, surprise, the man is sitting at the top, and he's sitting at the top by 8 tenths of a second. Rich 500.
I know, but as brilliant as that lap is, please take a look at second to seventh.
I am looking at that right now.
Absolutely ridiculous. It's less than the 10th between all of those drivers is absolutely astonishing. So Rich having an absolute blinder of a lap with a 27.6, and then you can't get a fag paper between second to seventh.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredibly close from second all the way down to seventh. I'm coming on board with Jay Luke, and Jay Luke already near enough half a second up on his sector one time as he comes through turn number 8 now, climbing up the hill in towards the left-hander here at turn number 9, braking as you're going through turn number 9 to really set yourself up for turn number 10. Trying to get the best traction possible on the exit. DRS wide open, running down now in towards turn number 11, where of course the elevation change is going to allow drivers to go side by side and just drift out a little bit wider for this, so we could see some side by side action. Now coming through turn number 12, and 8 tenths improvement so far from Jay Luke as he comes through turn number 13. Now the run down towards 14 and of course 15, the double right hander here, and now it's nothing to do but put your foot to the floor, brace yourself for that DRS activation point to the line, and he lost time in the final sector, did Jay Luke?
Yeah, he did, didn't he? I think it looked as though he was slightly outbraked himself in the last corner, but just by a minuscule amount. It certainly wasn't half a second's worth, I don't think. But yeah, just showing what a lap from Rich 500 that really is.
Yeah, Rich down in the middle sector as he comes through the final couple of corners now. Let's see what Rich does, and he comes into the pit lane. Joe improving on his lap time, he's on a 28.2. We got Jamie, who's a tenth and a half in sector 1, up on his time. We're coming from the middle sector split right now, and Jamie's still on about half a tenth up. As Jess with an improved lap time there jumps herself up into P4 for the Red Bull. And remember, Jess is still in this championship battle as well. And likewise, what we saw last week, Jess having great pace in the dry, it was with the crossover to the wet that really hindered her, and honestly, I can 100% relate to that. Yes, I think it was the commentators' time, the shine and the dry, but when it came to the wet, yeah, no thank you.
Yeah, it's always tricky in the rain on this game. Very, very tricky. But isn't Jess having, I mean, let's be frank, she's having her best ever season by a country mile, and she's had some brilliant seasons. And she's really, really put herself into a fantastic position, not only to challenge for the title, but obviously to put herself in that top 3. And her being up in 5th place there is exactly what she needs to do.
Yep, and I'm sure she'll be very thankful to seeing that Jamie is just ahead of her again. The former teammates can't stay away from each other. And so I'm on board with Cowboy, getting a little bit tail happy, coming through the final corner. And to the line will come Cowboy, and it's going to be P11. But I think for Cowboy, positive, there's a lap time on the board now.
Yes, it was getting a bit nervy for him. He's got enough time to come back to the pits and have another stab at it, which I'm sure that's what he's planning on doing. But Jamie, yeah, a great lap from the McLaren driver there, sticking his car up in P4. And Jamie's pace the last couple of races has been brilliant, hasn't it? He's really... I know that he changed the controller setting, and it really has transformed his feeling with the car that he's got now.
Well, I mean, we took you back a couple of weeks ago to round number 7 at China, and in terms of pace around that circuit, he was absolutely impeccable around in China. It was just unfortunate that obviously he had wing damage throughout the entire race, which didn't seem to bother him too much and didn't slow him down though. But it was just getting a little bit hot and heavy on the final lap under braking, which cost him the opportunity of the race win. But he's definitely been showing a lot of pace and a lot of improvements in terms of the consistent pace he's been showing in recent weeks. That is for sure, and you're seeing that right now in qualifying with Jamie being up there in P4.
Yes, I think looking down the grid at the drivers who I think are pretty desperate to improve, you've got Salo currently down in 9th. He'll be hoping to improve on that. Funky down in 13th, Proverb down in 15th, Mason in 12th. Mason now on an out lap, but Salo, I was expecting to see a little bit more pace from the Alpine driver tonight, Mike. Can he pull it out of the bag at the last minute?
I mean, so far over the course of the season, Salo has done incredibly well in terms of qualifying pace. It's always been the case in terms of the race where some things will just not go his way, and he has to settle for the tail end of the points. But in recent races, he has done a lot better in the main races. So, I mean, maybe we'll see Salo improve on his qualifying time. He is right behind J. Luke, so it's not a bad person to be behind. He is going to get a little bit of a long-range tow as well from the Mercedes, which might help him on his lap. The one thing he doesn't want, though, is to be too close that he gets hit with the dirty air effect coming through the middle sector.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think he's at a pretty good distance at this stage, not to get too much dirty air, but does get that little toe effect as well. And you can see that he is nearly 2/10 up on his current lap. And Mike, with how close the grid is at the minute, that's a lot.
Yeah, and from what I'm seeing as well, it doesn't look like J. Luke is really pushing on this lap. So Salo is closing in, but J. Luke, I think, is trying to get his eye in on the circuit before he goes for his final push lap. But Salo is going to be very thankful for this because he's going to get a tow, and that's going to only improve his lap time. I think J. Luke, as you see there, 4 times up in the middle sector for Salo. That is putting J. Luke's lap time under pressure here.
It is, isn't it? He's basically in the front row fight here from Salo. Can he get this last corner right? So important. Oh, that looked absolutely perfect. J. Luke pulls into the pit lane. Salo just nails it and does get on the front row, just pipping J. Luke. And has J. Luke got enough time to get in the pit lane,
No.
and get back out. I don't think he has, Mike. I think
No.
that's his quality done.
Yeah, I think that's his qualifying done and over with. Also, I think potentially with his car being pulled back into the garage, that's going to be Rich's qualifying over and done with as well.
Yes. So, Rich, at the moment, dominantly quicker in qualifying.
Actually, no, Rich is already out, so...
He is out, yeah. He's on his out lap.
Oh, so,
Whether he'll need it or not, Mike, is another matter. As Mason puts it up into 6th place with a 28.4 just behind his teammate Jamie.
yep, as we got Joe 2 attempts up in the first sector. And one thing I was going to say there, Cole, is obviously I thought that maybe J-Luke might have stopped Rich from getting out of the pit lane. It seems that Rich leaving the garage the way he did just before J-Luke was coming in, there was a break in between the pit crew in terms of getting J-Luke's car back into the garage, which I think might have cost him a little bit of time and potentially might have cost him the chance of coming back out on track. But I mean, both of these two, they got such a lead in terms of the constructors. I'm all for this inter-team battle between Rich and J-Luke.
Yeah, and me. Do you think that was a bit of high IQ there, Rich, to make sure that J-Luke didn't have enough time to put another lap in, I wonder?
Potentially, as Joe there goes up into P2.
Wow.
So the Alpine's coming in strong. And this is where the games that Rich and J-Luke could play against each other. This is where they have to be a little bit cautious, because the Alpines, in terms of pace, are right there, and they would love an opportunity to close up massively if these two get their elbows out with each other a little bit too much.
Yeah, exactly that. They've been quite close, the two Alpine drivers lately. They've been sharing quite a lot of the track, and you can see how close, less than a tenth in it between Salo and Joe. But I'm still stunned by that lap from Rich, because that was done really early in the session, I think, Mike. Is he up? I'm just having a look. I think he is up on his time.
Yeah, he's up by 600 of a second in Sector 1. We're staying on board with Rich right now. The checker flag is out in the session. Salo has seen the checker flag. JR Mason in the pit lane, his session over and done with. Trash Panda session over and done with. And we're going to be seeing some improved lap times coming in as M125 bolts up into P6, splitting the two McLarens. Good lap there from him. Skrillex getting himself ahead of Trash Panda, as I believe that is Jess potentially coming to the line right now as she'll cross the line. And yeah, she stays down in P8. One of the Aston Martins coming to the line, as well as we got Jamie just ahead of Rich on this lap, as Jamie to the line. Any improvement from him? No. What about for Rich? And he does improve by nearly a tenth of a second.
Whoa, what a lap that is. 27.6, 4 tenths clear of P2. He's got some stunt. Wow, look at that. That's a great lap as well from the Haas driver.
Yeah, absolutely. As Leroy unable to improve on his lap time, we got Pollard into the pits, and Cole, I believe that is qualifying over and done with. It's going to be the championship leader, Rich 500, starting from pole position here at tonight's race, and he has both of the Alpines in Joe and Salo splitting himself and his nearest championship rival, his teammate J-Luke, will be starting from P4.
Oh, he's going to be loving that. That's exactly what Rich needed to go into this. But like we were saying before quali started, Mike, it's not difficult to overtake around this track. You've got plenty of DRS zones, so there's plenty of opportunities for J-Luke to overtake and to make up those positions to get on the back of Rich. But he's going to have to be careful into turn 1, Mike. I've seen many a front wing go missing in those first couple of corners.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's going to be echoed throughout the entire field. But let's run you through the order here in qualifying. It is Rich that takes a pole position by over 4 tenths of a second ahead of Joe, who will join him on the front row. Salo there in P3 with J-Luke in P4. Jamie in P5 with Papa Sponge in P6. M125 in P7 with Funky in P8. JR Mason in P9, and Jess rounding out the top 10. Outside the top 10 we have Matthias, Leroy, Cowboy, Yeast, Proverb, Skrillex, and Trash Panda are going to be bringing up the final position in the rear.
Yeah, so obviously now we're going to do our lobby restart. So we're going to go back to the main menu of the lobby screen. The drivers will compose themselves for a bit. The grids will be reformed, and we will be back underway with Under the Lights, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, another thing as well, Cole. In terms of the rivalries for this week, we called in the Ferrari teammates into the rivalries for this week in Quinn and Leroy, and we put the question to the pair of them. So, guys, how are you feeling as a team? Things have gone this season. Do you feel you're in position to go after the constructors title? Are you happy with the standings in the drivers title race? Or what could you change between now and the season's ends to give you the best chance? Of course, we had Quinn responding saying it started really good this season, but inconsistent performances from both of us derailed our chances in the Constructors' Championship very quickly. And personally, I think it'll be very difficult to beat Jay, Luke, and Rich on track, as well as the Alpine duo. Leroy says, not going well, too much ups and downs, and we're missing a couple of races. I need to have more good results. I hope with good teamwork we can get higher in the standings than we are right now. And of course, it's one of those situations where the Ferraris, they started off incredibly well. Of course, Imola round number 1, the teamwork that we saw from Leroy and Quinn, brilliant. And as both of them have said, it's just been inconsistency since then.
It hasn't it? It's gone a bit pear-shaped since round 1. It was looking like, Leroy and Quinn really were going to be championship contenders, but it's all fallen away. And like you said, the lack of consistency has really hurt them, and it's really derailed their championships, which is a bit of a shame. I know Leroy had to miss a couple of races, so that obviously didn't help. But let's hope that they can get a better result tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, before we go any further, massive shout out to our sponsors and partners here at One Hub Racing, of course, to Next Level Racing, to Pure Sim Gear, of course, Vespertwin, as well as Sim Grid, and of course the Mental Health Foundation. If you do need to talk, make sure you do. It is very important. Never suffer in silence. And Cole, obviously, in terms of the pre-race interviews that we've done for tonight as well, obviously there's been a few people that have popped in and typed in their thoughts and about what they're going to see here tonight and everything. So we put the question to the people. Welcome to Bahrain. How confident are we feeling heading into the desert? And of course, we have Salu and Joe respond. So I'm going to go with Joe first. Joe saying he's feeling pretty comfortable around here. Hopefully, no unfortunate luck this week. Salu saying, well, my performance at this side of the season have been much better, but I'm not the most confident on this track, so it will be an interesting one. Jamie is saying, feeling confident. Mind you, I have said this for the last 3 races. Jess saying 50-50. There's been some races that have been good at this track and some I haven't. So Jess may be alluding to it being a bit of a bogey circuit for her. J. Luke, in the past, Bahrain has been one of my better tracks, but with limited playtime on this track on the current game, I have no predictions as to how I'll do. And of course, Funky saying he's not feeling too confident today. Cowboy saying I'm confident to get a good result here. So varying opinions up and down the field. Of course, some drivers not really feeling too confident. Some drivers maybe feeling very confident but are hesitant to really push the boat out. And some drivers are just don't know.
Yeah, it's quite difficult for them, I think. It's, especially the way that the tracks are so different as well. Trying to gauge where they are compared to the other drivers is next to impossible. Some drivers will have their favourite circuits, but it does evolve. I remember Bahrain used to be Mason's best track by a country mile, but that's no longer the case now. It's changed to other tracks, so it's going to be very, very difficult. Look, I see Jess in the pre-interviews was saying that Abu Dhabi is where she's expecting to be strong, which I'm surprised at because I thought it'd be that and Bahrain quite similar, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of obviously in terms of like overtaking opportunities, yeah, Abu Dhabi and Bahrain, they do provide some great overtaking opportunities. But the one thing I think Jess may be alluding to is maybe just having a better feel in the final sector. Obviously, the flow in of the final sector, and obviously, making sure that you can get through the first sector nice and easy, and obviously the middle sector is basically make sure that you are on the brakes at the right time going into that chicane. But yeah, I think the flow of that Abu Dhabi circuit is probably what Jess is alluding to there. But as you brought up that one, of course, that was one of the questions we put out to people. Which of the 4 tracks left do you feel strongest at? Of course, as you mentioned, Jess saying Abu Dhabi. J. Luke is saying probably Spa. Funky saying Abu Dhabi as well, so that's another one for Abu Dhabi. We got Cowboy saying Spa as well. Who else? We got.
There's a pan, yeah.
We got Jamie saying Miami or Bahrain.
Ooh.
So an interesting one there. We got Salu saying probably Spa is the strongest track for him, but Abu Dhabi should be okay as well. We have Joe saying here or Abu Dhabi. So yeah, there's definitely a pattern beginning to form there, Cole.
There is, isn't there? I am personally very much looking forward to Belgium. They remodeled it a couple of games ago, and it's it's a brilliant circuit to race around. I was never really a fan of Bahrain, although recently I've grown to like it. As you know, Mike, back in the day, I used to hate it. I think it was turns 9 and 10 I just could not get right. And it's going to be those corners, Mike, that these drivers are going to have to be very careful of. It's so easy to, outbrake yourself into them and hit the car head and damage your front wing. So they've got to be very, very careful around those corners particularly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Cole, my opinions on Bahrain historically from myself. I mean, this is the birthplace of where the name Ivor Spin Mike came from. So there's a reason why that name exists, and it is from this circuit where I was spun it out of turn 12 many times, turn 14 many times. I spun it out of turns 1 and 2, turn 4 definitely another one, and yeah, it's one of those circuits that historically hasn't been the nicest. Obviously, this circuit presents more opportunities for overtaking than last time out in Japan. Do you feel this has a chance to pick up a good amount of championship points? Joe saying yes, hopefully can close the gap onto the top 5. We have Salu saying I'm hoping so. At least there's definitely more opportunities. I think my confidence and pace are a little up in the air. I'll just be aiming to do my best this time round. We have Jamie saying I'd be disappointed if I didn't. Jess saying my dry pace I feel was stronger in Japan than it is in Bahrain, but you never know. J. Luke saying 100% the best track for overtaking, so there's definitely is championship points to gain potentially. Funky saying hopefully as well, and Cowboy saying I hope so. Now, obviously, J. Luke saying the best. It's the best track to get overtaken done. Do you agree with that?
I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's certainly one of the easiest. I don't think you're going to see drivers being held up for too long, to be honest. Especially if there's a tyre delta as well. But what I'm very interested about, Mike, this evening is the tyre strategy, because I've spoken to 3 different drivers and they've told me they're going to do completely different strategies. So I have absolutely no idea what they're going to decide.
Well, one way to find out, Colin, that's heading into the action on track as they're going on the formation lap, and there is a bit of a split in terms of the strategy. Majority of the field on a set of the soft compound tyres. We have Joe Salu and Papa Squanch on a set of mediums, and then Jay Luke on a set of the hard compound tyres.
Well, after last week, I'm not going to say anything about Jay Luke's strategy. I'm going to keep my mouth firmly shut. But that's a brave call. I admire that. That's a very brave call. He's thinking, I've got to try something different. It's going to be really tricky for him in the first couple of laps. Because, he's got Jamie behind him on softs, which is just a huge difference. But, of course, he's going to struggle at the start, Mike, but he will have the better tyre at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, mandatory 2-stop here in one hub, of course. So, I mean, the soft tyres, historically, I've not done any running around Bahrain yet, so good luck to me and P1 later tonight. But, yeah, Bahrain historically has always been a track that the soft tyres they fall away after like 2 or 3 laps. So they got the pace early on, but they fall away very quickly.
Yeah, it does seem that way, doesn't it? So obviously Jay Luke's going to go very long into this race. What Jay Luke does not want at the start, really, is an early safety car. Does that and will he decide then to stay out? I don't know. It's going to be it's going to be very, very interesting as the drivers are lining up on the grid, Mike.
Yeah, potentially a safety car might not be such a bad thing for Jay Luke if it's one early, because he can just do medium to the end. It might be a little bit worn at the end,
Good
but
point.
they should be sorted. But yeah, we're going to head to those 5 red lights to get underway here for round number 9 in Bahrain. The lights are out and we are underway, and it looks like a very good start there from Richard. Joe getting a good launch initially, but a poor second phase at the start as we got Jay Luke looking down the inside, trying to hold on to P4 with Jamie there. As I think contact made, and that's Salo down the order.
Yes, Salo, I think they came together with Jamie, and Salo is now at the back of the grid. Really struggling. Jess manages to gain a couple of places. She's up into 8th. The perfect start from Rich. Joe there in 2nd place on the mediums. Jay Luke, very, very good start on the hards, Mike, staying in that 4th position.
Yeah, of course, Jay Luke defending from Jamie going to turn 1. I think it potentially was 3 wide between those 2 and Salo, and 3 into 1 doesn't normally go, Cole, but we're already seeing the pace difference between the hards and the softs immediately, because he's already outside that 1 second window on M125, who's also had a fantastic start. He's up at the P3, Cole.
Yeah, that's a belted start, isn't it? I mean, he gained 4 places. I think, yeah, he gained 4 places, started 7th, already up in the podium spot and right on the back of Joe. And he's going to be challenging Joe into turn 1. If he gets a good run, he's got a great run on him. Is he close enough to have a go, Mike?
Well, that's going to be the question. I'm not sure if he's going to be close enough to have a go in towards turn number 1, but someone who will have a go is going to be Jess getting through on Jamie, as well as Funky getting through on Papa Squanch here. And if I was Papa Squanch, I probably would have tried to make sure I got through on Jay Luke, because the last thing I want is to be battling with Funky. I'd rather be ahead of Jay Luke and try to close in on the guys up ahead.
Yeah, exactly that. Jay Luke now, he's basically forming a lovely train behind him, but crucially, he's not making errors. He is keeping those guys behind, but the DRS will be open now, so this is when he's going to be under a hell of a pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at that. The gap is already 2 seconds between M125 and J Luke. Now, normally in the next lap or two, that's when you start to see this gap begin to peter out and then begin to go the other way as we see Funky getting through on J Luke. Up into P4 goes Funky. Papa Squanch is still in P6, but he's side by side with Jamie right now as they come through to number 12. Side by side, wheel to wheel action between Papa Squanch, the Haas, and the McLaren. Now, Jamie, as we got Jess looking to try and capitalise in behind as well. And it looks like Jamie's had a fantastic launch out at turn 13 because he's potentially on the look down in towards the penultimate corner. But yep, no, he's going to sit in behind and try to get a better exit, which he's got a very decent exit. And here they come, Cole, running down in towards turn number 1. Jamie's going to get the move down on Papa Squanch. J Luke, and look at Jamie trying to have a little look down the inside as well.
Oh. And we have a change for the lead. Joe, on the medium tyre, has got in front of Rich. And Rich now is also under pressure from M125. So there's battles everywhere as Jamie goes into 4th place. He says, thank you very, very much. That's my place. I'm now going to rocket off into the distance. So can he now close the gap, Mike, to the top 3, which is already at 4 seconds?
Well, that's going to be the thing. Obviously, that gap is coming down to 3.8 now between Jamie and M125. But it is starting to increase once again. I think it's going to be one of those things where J Luke will probably be a little bit upset that on the opening lap he lost so much time to the guys up in front, because the lack of DRS he has to the top 3 is going to hurt him early on, because these guys are just going to get free lap time now, and they're going to be in the pits very soon, I want to say, as well. So they're going to get the undercut effect also.
Yeah, exactly that. J Luke's in a good place at the minute, so he's within DRS of Jamie, so he can use that DRS as a defensive tool against the likes of Papa Squanch, Funky, and Jess behind him. He's just about in it. Yeah, he's in the gap as Rich is back in the lead of this race.
Yep, lovely DRS overtake there from Rich down the inside, back up into P1. As we see Jamie, all of his hard work that he did to close up the gap as best as possible has just been undone by that one DRS zone call.
Yeah, that's very important. I think Jamie might have made an error somewhere, because it's the gap suddenly grown to 4.5, and J Luke is right back on him, Mike.
I mean, J Luke would have naturally closed up with DRS anyway. I think Jamie's just lost his time due to the fact that he does not have DRS and the guys ahead of him. I think that's where the main issue has come from, because you can see in the corners it looks like Jamie has the pace to close up, but with the lack of DRS, he's just going to hemorrhage time on the start finish straight and in the run in towards turn number 4. But we got M125 going to clean around the outside of Rich, and that is a fantastic overtake from M125, and Rich goes from the race lead down to P3 in the span of this lap.
Yeah, he's not going to be very happy with that. But don't forget, Rich's target is, and I'm sure he's thinking it himself, just be ahead of J Luke. He's probably not worried about the cars ahead of him at this stage. He's just thinking, as long as I'm ahead of J Luke, I am doing okay. So he's a very intelligent driver, Rich. He doesn't go for unnecessary risks. Very rarely makes a mistake as well, in all fairness to him. And he's still in that DRS. But Mike, that gap has closed between Rich and Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie pushing to try and close up as best as he can. J Luke is happy to get towed along by Jamie in this early phase, but I think what we're going to be seeing now, Cole, is these soft tyres begin to fall away. And what I mean by that is I think we're going to see Joe in the corners now begin to extend that gap, and you see already it's up to 8 tenths near enough coming out of turns 9 and 10. DRS will help M125 close up, but let's see how much he gains in the next 2 corners, where of course it is all about the tyre grip. And we're seeing it, and actually maybe I'm a little bit off. It's definitely stagnated though. That's one thing I can say.
Yes, definitely. Jamie doing very well there. I'm so impressed with J-Luke. I know he's got the advantage of being in the DRS, but to have this pace on the hard tyres compared to the soft runners and the medium runners behind him is absolutely brilliant. And I think from J-Luke's perspective, I think he's thinking this is the perfect start of the race for him. As we got a first pitter, Mike, it's one of the Ferraris. It's Leroy in the pit lane. He's had enough of these softs.
Yeah, Leroy in the pits. He's going to get off the Red Bull soft compound tyres, and he's going to put on a fresh set of the mediums, and that's going to be the benefit for J-Luke, because J-Luke now, no matter what tyre he goes on to, it's going to give him more grip, it's going to give him more pace, and there's going to be a point where he's going to have an advantage over the guys ahead of him. Whether or not it's when the guys ahead pit maybe for a set of hards, if they elect to choose a set of hards, or if they go for back-to-back mediums, they're going to be a little bit more worn than what J-Luke's are. So J-Luke might be able to use that tyre advantage to come back later in the race. Rich though, it seems like he's fallen away from the top two a little bit. He's barely hanging on to DRS range right now. Yeah,
he seems to be struggling at the minute. Don't know whether his tyres are a bit in a more worse condition than the guys ahead. Certainly more than Joe. But yeah, Mike, he does seem to be struggling. He's just holding on to DRS at this moment. Are we going to see him peel off into the pit lane? No, he continues on for another lap. And J-Luke is actually now challenging Jamie down into the first corner, Mike. He's really close.
Yeah, and this is where we're going to see what the soft tyres are looking like compared to the hards here, because I would say at this stage the softs definitely should be more worse away versus the mediums. I think with the hards it's going to be a very close call. But let's see what happens now in this middle sector as Jamie is went back on the inside of J-Luke there, but unable to get down the traction around the outside for the Mercedes. Gets the job done on the McLaren. But right now, the battle in between Jamie and J-Luke is actually hemorrhaged more time than actually in gaining. I think these two should have been trying to work together a little bit more.
Yes, I think you're right, Mike. It's just enabling the top three to pull away, really. Yes, Rich is now out of DRS, so he's going to be in a bit of bother now. I would suggest this is probably the perfect time now for Rich to pit, because he is out, although he has just about gained a couple of tenths, Mike. I think he's just back in it. He needs to get a good line through this final corner. I think the DRS detection point is just before it, actually, so he should get the DRS as we get, and they're all coming in, Mike. The top three. No, Rich decides against it and pulls back out.
J-Luke stays out. No surprise there. Papa Swan stays out. Jamie's into the pit lane as well. As we're going to see what tyres everyone goes on to. Let's keep an eye on Leroy as well. Leroy's already made a pit stop. Let's see what the undercut is looking like for Leroy. Remember, he wasn't anywhere near the guys at the front. He's come for the final corner now, and he's coming down the start-finish straight. He should get the jump on the likes of East and maybe even Jess here. As we come down in towards turn number one, there's Jess on the right-hand side, and he's just going to come out ahead of Jess.
Yeah, very, very close, but shows the power of the undercut, doesn't it, Mike? You know, it is quite strong. So this is gonna, this might force a couple of drivers into boxing a bit earlier than they planned with how strong the undercut is. That's obviously not going to help J-Luke's charge either, because of course they're all going to box before him.
Yeah, and I think Rich must be pushing on this lap, because he's trying to build the gap to J-Luke, but also at the same time he's trying to minimize the damage that will be done with this undercut that has been done by Joe and M125. And let's not forget, obviously Jamie showed great pace on the sauce. He was closing up, The question is, can Jamie close up enough on this stint to really get himself into a podium fight, perhaps?
Well, he's certainly doing the best he can at this stage. He's doing all the right things. As we've got Funky, Cowboy, and Mason in the pits, Mike.
Yeah, and Papa Squanch going through on J. Luke. Up into P2 goes the Haas. And I think J. Luke going to be happy to sit in behind Papa Squanch for just a lap or two before trying to re-overtake him. But you see that gap to Joe and M1 to Joe and J. Luke. 13.7 seconds, and it is flying down, Cole.
It is, isn't it? It's coming down very rapidly. As Jamie's having a big old battle with Funky as they're trying to chase after Leroy. So Leroy jumped Jamie as well in the pit stop. So he's played an absolute blinder here.
That's going to allow Jamie potentially to have a little luck on Leroy. I think what's happened there, Cole, is obviously the hard tyres. They are a very durable tyre, but they do take a while to switch on. And I think that's what's happened there. Because remember, Leroy only just was just ahead of Jess when Jess came out of the pit lane. And I think that because these hard tyres take a lap or two to switch on, is one of those ones where Leroy's been able to take full advantage of the fact he's already got his mediums at the temperature. He's on a quicker and grippier set of tyres. And here we go now. Rich is into the pit lane. And that's going to allow Papa Squanch and J. Luke now into the race lead. As Joe is coming to the start finish straight. Rich is still in the pit lane. Joe with a fast lap of the race, showing the pace of those tyres. And maybe M125 on those hards, not gaining as much on the undercut as you would have thought, but he is on the hard, so maybe that is why, in terms of course, the getting the tyres up the temperature and getting them switched on. But what this has done, Cole, is put Rich in a bit of no man's land, and he's got Leroy and Jamie about 3 seconds off the back of him, who could maybe work together and DRS themselves onto the back of Rich here.
Yeah, exactly that. So Rich has got no benefit of any DRS help whatsoever. J-Luke and Papa Squanch up the front still having their battle. Papa Squanch, both, don't forget, J-Luke and Papa Squanch, both yet to pit. Expect to see Papa Squanch in rather soon. So who have we got, Mike, who has yet to stop? So it is just the top two. So everyone else has made at least one stop.
Yeah, and I think Papa Squanch, the next tyre is going to be a very interesting one. I think we're probably going to see a set in the mediums from Papa Squanch. But J. Luke, I think is guaranteed mediums to the end. And he's got fresh sets of salts in case there is a safety car late into this race.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. We've had a very clean start to the race. Fair play to the drivers. We're 11 laps in. We haven't even had so much as a damaged front wing, which is brilliant from the drivers, to be honest. There was obviously a bit of a kerfuffle at the start with Salo. Salo now down in 14th, but is catching and is in the DRS of Matthias in 13th.
Yeah, I think Salo is all going to be about damage limitation, trying to gain as many points as possible. And of course, once he gets through on with DRS, we should be seeing potentially as Jamie gets through on Leroy. Leroy looking for a bit of a switchback, gets the traction down. They're going to be side by side as we head into the S's call. Wheel to wheel action between Jamie and Leroy here. McLaren versus Ferrari, and it's McLaren that comes out on top. Jamie getting himself up into P6 and holding on to P6 under the threat of Leroy in behind. But what I was going to say, Cole, for Salo, is he has to absolutely get past Matthias as quickly as possible, because he's on 7 lap old mediums. His tyre is going to be feeling a little second hand at this point, but he's got to put a big shift in to try and close up to the likes of Proverb and Mason, which are of course the tail end of the punch here.
Yeah, exactly that. As Matthias gets overtaken by Salo as well. So Matthias's tyres clearly showing that they're a bit second-hand as Papa Squanch is in the pit lane.
Yeah, that's going to allow Joe to go up the track and the P2, and M125 back up in the podium position. Rich back up in the P4 again. And one thing I'm not particularly well, actually, yes, we had 3 wide going on in turn 1 there momentarily as Funky has got a double overtake done on both Leroy and Jamie, catching them both napping. The Aston Martin up in the P5 now. But what I was going to say is Rich isn't really closing in on those mediums on M125 as much as I would have thought he would.
Yeah, I was really surprised that. I've been watching the lap times from Rich. And like you said, Mike, he hasn't... Oh, this is tight. This is really tight. Jamie hangs it on the outside. Stays in front of the Ferrari driver. We got a yellow flag. Sector 1 as well.
Jess and Papa Squanch side by side in behind as well. So it's not just the battles in front, it's the battles in behind also. As Papa Squanch gets through on Jess, up in the P9 goes the Haas. But yeah, I mean, Papa Squanch on fresh mediums. This is going to be interesting because he's got a lot of cars in front of him that have slightly worn tyres. He should have the grip advantage over the legs of Cowboy, and look at the grip he has going through 11 pole. Clean around the outside now for 12 in towards 13 as he hangs it around the outside. Job done right there for Papa Squanch up in the P8. And Papa Squanch, I think, if he can get himself ahead of Jamie, I mean, and maybe even Funky has managed to break DRS, so that's a good going from Funky to get himself out of DRS range. But what I was going to say is if Papa Squanch can get himself to the head of this train, he could really make some inroads potentially on Rich here.
Yeah, he definitely could do that. Just a bit of a race update. Poor old Guest got disqualified. So he spun out of the first, I think, turn 2, got himself beached on the curb, could not get going, and the game disqualified him for being parked in a dangerous position. So very unfortunate there for Guest as he's disqualified from the session, down to 16 runners, Mike.
Yeah, absolute heartbreak there. We got Jess going around the outside of Cowboy at the hairpin at turn number 8. Job done for Jess as Cowboy's actually disconnected from the session. Unfortunate day for Cowboy. Hopefully we can get him back in ASAP and get him up the order as quickly as possible, as Papa Squanch is getting himself up the order. Up in the P6 now goes the Haas, getting the job done on Jamie. And this is where Papa Squanch now has got to use those medium tyres, use those fresh mediums to his full advantage, because he's got the pace to kind of pull away now from Jamie. Jamie's going to be able to close back up with DRS. Jamie could get dragged back onto the back of Funky here, where of course he just lost contact with just a moment ago. But Papa Squanch could also maybe drag these two closer to Rich, so that when it comes to that final pit stop phase, it's a little bit more interesting, Cole.
Yeah, exactly that. While J. Luke leads out the front on his 13 lap bowl hards, he'll be praying for a safety car at this point, won't he, Mike? Because if he gets a safety car at this point, he's sitting really pretty. But not one of the tracks where you tend to get many safety cars. But Joe is catching him, same as M125. It's going to be very interesting. Mike, what lap do you expect J. Luke to box on? Is he going to try and stretch it to 2 softs, or is he going to do 2 mediums?
I'm expecting J. Luke coming to the pits at the end of this lap. So we're seeing that the mediums, they are okay for around 7 to 11 laps. So I'm assuming that J. Luke will probably think of going 7 laps on the mediums for both sets to make sure he has the best of those tyres to obviously maximise the pace on them. I'm expecting him in at the end of this lap as we're going to be on board, and there we go, he's in.
So where is J. Luke going to appear now? And let's see what tyres he's going to go for. Soft tyres, Mike. He's going to go for the softs.
Very interesting there from J. Luke. M125 continues on, but Joe also into the pits. He's made both of his pit stops now. That's it, job done. He can go to the end of the race. He's on the set of the hard compound tyres. Funky is going to get himself ahead, as so is Papa Squan, so is Jamie ahead of J Luke. So a lot of cars now for J Luke to try and overtake, but he is on very, very fresh, grippy, soft compound tyres now.
Yes, he certainly is. So he's going to be, and he's not too far behind Jamie. I think he's just out of DRS at this moment in time. Unfortunately, my timing screens have decided to go do lally like the real Formula One did. But the pace that J Luke's going to have now on these softs is going to be fantastic, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. And he is closing up the Jamie. I think he's just outside the DRS range on the run down through turn 10. But of course, he should be within DRS on the start-finish straight. And if he can get the job done ASAP on Jamie, he can get straight onto the back of Papa Squanch, who's all over the back of Funky. And then there's a 5-second gap up the road to Rich 500, his championship rival, his teammate. And this is where the pressure is going to build for Rich. If he sees J Luke pop up on that timing on his top left, he is going to be getting a little bit nervous, I think.
Yeah, I would say so. As J Luke, what a run out of the last corner. He's alongside of Jamie even before the DRS is deployed. So that is one position done, and up into 4th place as Papa Squanch moves into the top 3.
Yeah, and what that has done is actually brought J Luke immediately onto the back of him, and J Luke now can go chasing after these guys. And Cole, if you're Rich, you've been on these mediums for 6 laps. Are you thinking about potentially trying to stretch it out to another set of softs, or are you thinking another set of mediums to the end?
I think, to be honest, in this position, I would probably go for the mediums, with the simple reason of getting that undercut, which means that you'd have a little bit of breathing room. Yes, you know that J Luke's going to be hunting you down, but you will have a bit of breathing room then with the undercut. But let's see what Rich decides to do. M125 comfortably leading this race, Mike. 3.2 second lead.
Yeah, but let's not forget as well that M125 does have to make his second pit stop. A Salu there squeezing out JR Mason as we go through turn number 11 and 12. Salu up into P8 on his recovery drive. It's a good recovery so far from the Alpine. He's got himself back up into what I believe is a net P9 in this race, because of course Joe has made both pit stops. In fact, I think Leroy has also made both pit stops, so potentially a net P10 as J Luke gets the job done on Funky. Up into P4 now goes J Luke, and look at that gap, 4.4 seconds between Rich and Papa Squanch, and you've got J Luke right on the back. Cole, I think we're going to be seeing the teammates go to battle at some point.
I think it's almost inevitable now, Mike, as J Luke is on the inside of Papa Squanch.
Too deep.
Oh, he does run a bit wide. Papa Squanch back through. Little bit of a mistake there from J Luke, but he's still got that huge tyre advantage. I say huge, it's a decent tyre advantage, but they are all. He doesn't want to do too much battling here. He doesn't want to get involved. He wants to get this manoeuvre done as soon as he can, Mike.
Yeah, and heartbreak for Leroy, who's at a moment coming out of turn number 3, and that means he's lost a lot of time. He's dropped behind Matthias now in P13 and 14 respectfully, and Cole, the gap is down to 4.1, 4.2. The gap is closing between Papa Squanch and Rich 500, and J Luke on those soft tyres. He's got a lot of battery to burn, as has Papa Squanch, to be fair, in comparison to Rich, who's on the least amount of ERS out of the 3. I think we're going to be seeing J Luke now charge after his teammate here, because DRS job done on Papa Squanch, and he'll have a decent gap coming in towards the braking for turn number 1. Should be enough to maybe hold on to P3 going in towards turn number 4. But look at that now, 3.4 seconds the gap. Ooh. And let's see what happens now, because I think that's going to fly down on this lap now, Cole.
Yeah, and me. I think this is where Rich is going to go, oh, for heaven's sake, here he comes. So Rich is going to just make sure, as I was going to say, doesn't make a mistake as I go on board, and he locks up into the hairpin just before turns 9 and 10. So will him knowing that J-Luke is behind him, will this make him think, right, I want to go on the same tyres as J-Luke next? Are we going to go for softs? Are we going to go for mediums? So this is a strategy game, Mike, as much as anything else at this stage.
Yeah, not only that, it's also going to be a case of both of the teammates are going to be working together. I mean, J-Luke could maybe switch his strategy and put onto the set of the mediums, and maybe try to steal Rich's pit stop window away from him and force him to stay out an extra lap. But it all depends if J-Luke can close up. He's got the gap down to 2.3 seconds, so it's come down by a second on this lap alone. Papa Squanch is out of DRS range. He's going to be now under a bit of pressure from Funky and Jamie in behind now, who are closing in quite rapidly. M125 yet to make a pit stop. He's 4 seconds clear of Rich at this moment. And this is a very good race so far from M125. But let's not forget the driver that has made 2 pit stops already, Joe, in P8. And he right now is getting a very good undercut on these guys.
Yeah, he is, yeah. Obviously, he's going to be on some pretty worn, hard tyres come the end of the race. But we saw that J-Luke did 13 laps on them without much problem. So the wear life is good. It's all going to be about... Oh, here we go. It's getting close now, Mike.
Ladies and gentlemen, grab your popcorn because the championship protagonists, Rich 500, J-Luke, the 2 Mercedes drivers are now going to be battling out for P2 in this race. And of course, for J-Luke, it's an opportunity to close in on Rich. For Rich, it's an opportunity to prove why he's the championship leader and why he is currently the #1 driver at Mercedes over the course of this season. But elbows are about to go out, Cole, and I think we're going to be seeing a very interesting battle. In fact, no, Rich is going to come into the pits. He's saying, I'm having none of this and go for the undercut. And Rich into the pits.
I like it. That was...
mediums, I think, now.
I think so, Mike. So he's going to have... Oh! So, I mean, 9 laps on the softs, Mike. That's not an easy task. Is he going to come out and clear it? Let's have a look. So, he's gone for the soft tyres. Now, of course, J-Luke, unless he's listened to the stream live, he won't know. He might assume that Rich is on the lead. Oh, Salo's spun.
I just spotted JR Mason overtaking Salo. I just jumped on board with the Alpine, and the Alpine is literally sliding around doing a pirouette. And Rich will be very thankful that he's got that move done immediately on Salo, because the last thing you would want to deal with is being stuck behind the Alpine on very hot, hard compound tyres coming through those S's.
Yes, so what's J-Luke going to do now? Is he going to box? Is he going to go, right, okay, we know Rich has boxed, so I'm going to need pretty much to have a decent undercut. Oh, well, no, I don't want Rich to get a decent undercut, sorry. So is he going to box this lap as well? Or is he going to try and stretch these softs a little bit further? Let's see. Does he come in, Mike? No, he's carrying on. So J-Luke not boxing yet, Mike?
No, not boxing yet. And looking at the gap between J-Luke and M125, and of course Funky in behind, it seems like it's starting to stabilise the pace between J-Luke's tyres and the tyres around him.
Yes, as we have a 3-second time penalty from for Matthias. Only 2 penalties so far tonight, Mike, which I'm quite surprised at. Drivers doing well to keep it in those track limits. Leroy, obviously, don't forget, he's completed both his pit stops, but he has had a bit of a spin, so he's going to be further down the order. And look at that from Proverb on his new softs, the fastest lap of the race.
And you know what, Cole, one thing I was just on the look at then is the gap between Joe and Rich is 13 seconds.
Wow.
Oh, sorry, 11 seconds. Sorry, my bad.
Surely
11.
that's too much, Mike, isn't it? To gain in. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it might be doable. Rich is gonna have to really, really gun it, and put in qualifying laps for the remainder of this race to get anywhere near him.
I mean, by the time Rich catches up to Joe, though, is he going to have the tyres to really do anything about it? That's going to be the question. Because we're seeing the gap stabilise between the likes of J-Luke and M125, who's into the pits now. J-Luke also into the pits. So now we're going to see the front guys now into the pits. Papa Squanch also going to follow in. Jess going to stay out. Joe is going to stay out. Joe's going to be in the lead by a tremendous amount by the time everyone comes into the pits. But this is where it's going to get interesting, because now, Cole, Rich, well, he has set the fastest lap of the race, and he is going to get himself up ahead of both J-Luke and he's close to the back of M125 there. What we're going to see now, though, is a very interesting end to this race, because Rich's tyre is going to be a little bit more worn. They're going to fall off before J-Luke's and M125's is. And as J-Luke got the pace to catch up to Rich, overtake Rich, and then get onto the back of M125, and do they have enough time in this race to catch up to Joe? I don't know, but that gap between M125 and Joe is around about 7 seconds.
Yeah, that's a lot to gain. That's over a second a lap, so it's doable. But these drivers are going to really have to nail it, and like I said, it's basically going to be qualifying laps to the end. As J-Luke is not quite in DRS of Rich yet, Mike, but he does seem to have the pace. Don't forget, he's got 2-lap younger soft tyres, so they're 2 laps fresher, which could be critical towards the end of the race as our race leader, Funky, boxes for his final second stop.
Yeah, and this could be very useful for Rich right here. In fact, no, he does not pick up the DRS. I thought he might have had it on Trash Panda, as Trash Panda a lap down from the leaders, but unfortunately no DRS for Rich down the start finish straight. But he will have DRS on the run down in towards turn number 4, so that gives him a little bit more time. As you see, J-Luke trying to get within that 1 second. He's within the 1 second, but Rich has DRS, so he's going to be able to hold that gap that he needs to for right now, as Rich 8/10 the gap between himself and J-Luke.
It's so close, Mike. It's so close. How aggressive is J-Luke going to be? He's going to have to be quite aggressive. He's going to probably line him up for the main straight. That's probably going to be his best option. But he does seem to have the pace over Rich at this stage.
But you know what I would do if I'm J-Luke in this situation?
What would you do, Mike? What would you do?
So, I'm looking at it right now. M125 is 2.5 seconds up the road. The only way I'm going to be able to catch up with him is working with Rich. But if I am working with Rich, then obviously I'm leaving myself open to DRS mind games at the end of the race. What I would do if I'm J-Luke right now, save the battery.
Yes, that's a very, very good point. So let's have a look. So J-Luke 43%, Rich only 20%, Mike. So Rich is in bother. I don't think J-Luke's close enough to have a go yet. No, he holds back as Papa Squanch sets the fastest lap of the race on his soft tyres.
J-Luke's going for it. As here we go, the Mercedes battle has begun as J-Luke gets the move done on Rich. A relatively easy overtake for J-Luke in the end, but this is going to begin the battle of the Mercs in the desert in Shakir. That is what I'm calling right now, Cole, and I am here for it. Are we going to see the fireworks fly between the teammates, or is Rich's tyres just not going to allow him to keep up with J-Luke?
Yeah, I think he's going to struggle towards the end. He's obviously still in DR. Is he going to have a go, Mike? No, I don't think he's close enough. But you can see the power of that DRS. He is right with J. Luke still. If he can just stay with him for these next couple of corners, he's going to have a fantastic opportunity down into turn 1. We've seen so many overtakes there. And yeah, you can see Mike, he's up behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. Rich holding on to P4 and Cole. DRS mind games, I think, are beginning right now between the teammates.
Yeah, I think it is happening. Yeah, here we go. Rich, clearly in the inside, says thank you very, very much. I'll have that back. But I don't think that's the last Mercedes on Mercedes overtake.
Sorry to cut in there as Funky and Jamie side by side coming through turn number 1 and through turn number 2. Through turn number 3, they're still side by side. But look at this, Papa Squanch trying to get involved now in the Haas. As Papa Squanch going to look to try to go around the outside of Jamie here. Outbreaks the McLaren, tries to hang it all the way around the outside, near wheel to wheel. The Haas and the McLaren, and it's going to be Papa Squanch that comes out on top here. But Funky getting the job done in towards turn number 1, and he's up in the P5, 3.5 seconds off the back of Rich and J. Luke. And here's the thing, Cole. If Rich and J. Luke get their elbows out with each other, they could invite these guys onto the back of them. And that is something that they don't want. The gap from M125 versus Joe, that has come down now to 3.5 seconds. So M125 is really doing everything he can to close that gap down, but he's not going to be able to close it down if he does that too many times. And that's of course losing the back end coming through turn 13. But 3.5 seconds the gap. I don't think M125 is going to have enough to get it, but you never know. And you never know if a penalty can get picked up, because it is possible to pick up warnings.
Yeah, exactly. We got 3 drivers on warnings at the minute as J. Luke has a go and goes, thanks, I'll have lead. As I've noticed, Mike, they're not defending into turn 1 at this stage either. They do seem to be, when I say working together, they're working together to suit themselves, really, if that makes sense. But I think this ain't going to be decided, Mike, until that very last lap.
Yeah, I think whoever's in second going on to that last lap, that's where you want to be. And right now, J. Luke, I think, will be the guy in second on that last lap. So I wouldn't be surprised if Rich refuses to go for an overtake as we head on towards not this next lap. I think he might potentially go for it this lap, Rich. But I don't think J. Luke will try to overtake him on lap 28. I think he'll wait for the final lap to go for the overtake. But that gap, 2.7 now between Rich and Funky.
Ooh. That's come down quite a lot. I don't know whether Joe made a small mistake, but that is... Now it's getting interesting for this lead now, Mike. Can M125's tyres last to catch them up? So let's look at the gap. So we're starting lap 27. The gap, 2.8 seconds. So let's see at the end of the following lap how much he's gained.
Right, well, here comes Rich closing in, and he's not going for the overtake. He's sitting in behind J. Luke here.
Yeah, I think Rich is just going to stick behind him, Mike, until the last lap. That seems to be his tactic, which is, to be honest, probably the most sensible one. J. Luke will probably know that. Make sure he saves all of his battery so he doesn't use it. Although, Rich is suddenly outside of DRS, Mike.
Yeah, Rich outside of DRS. And this could be crucial because his tyres are definitely the oldest out of the guys around him. And he could be in a bit of bother. He is going to have DRS, so he will close back up a little bit, Cole. But if his tyres are falling away, it's only 2.5 seconds back to Papa Squanch.
Yeah, he could be in bother here if his tyres are going. He did get DRS down that back straight, but he is not within that
and he's using
crucial second. Yeah, you can see he's using as much of his ERS as he can to get back in that DRS, which he's just about done, Mike.
Yeah, just about, and yeah, he's used everything to get back within it. This could actually be crucial for Rich coming on to the final lap, because right now he's close enough to get DRS, but I don't think he's going to be going for the move. He's not using his DRS, but I don't think J. Luke is either. And here we go, he's closing in and he's backing off on the throttle call. The mind games have begun. Funky and Papa Squanch switching around, and that gap now 1.9 seconds between Rich and Funky here. If I'm J. Luke, do you back it? Do you risk backing Rich up into Papa Squanch and Funky?
Oh, that's a brave call. That's a really brave call. It might, it could work in your favour big time, or it could go completely and utterly pear-shaped. So it's a big call, but to be honest, the pace that Papa Squanch is showing, he could be within DRS at the end of this lap if he could just gain a couple of tenths.
Yeah, and both of these guys have got the entire battery to play with on the final lap now, called Rich and J. Luke. So it's all going to come down to the runs out of the corners as well as DRS. Ladies and gentlemen, Papa Squanch and Funky are in DRS range of Rich now. The final podium position is about to kick off big time. We have the championship protagonists in Rich 500 and J. Luke about to do battle. M125 was not closed in enough on Joe, but we'll stick with this battle by ear. The battle between the championship rivals, the teammates, as we go on to the final lap of this race. In behind you see Papa Squanch under pressure from Funky, but here comes Rich closing in on J. Luke. Looks to the inside, sends one down the inside. J. Luke gonna try to look for a potential switchback here, and he'll look to try and get the run out of turn number 2, but he does not have the DRS. It's going to be Rich that holds the line, but coming in towards turn number 4, around the outside goes J. Luke. Is that going to... I think maybe contact between the pair. Funky's through. Funky up in the P4. J. Luke now down into P5. Was it contact call?
I think there might have been. It was so... J. Luke now down, another place, and he's completely under pressure now from Papa Squanch. Can Papa Squanch completely ruin J. Luke's day? This is not what the driver wanted. He did not really want to be leading that last lap.
No, absolutely not. And have the teammates come to blows? I am not entirely sure. J. Luke has managed to stay ahead of Papa Squanch, but I'm going to go on board with Joe real quick, as you can keep us up to date with what's going on in that battle for the final podium position call. But Joe, through the final corner for the final time, the right strategy for Joe. He got the gap and he's taken a thoroughly well-deserved victory. M125 chased him down but wasn't close enough in the end. It's going to be Rich potentially taking the final podium position. Yes, it is, ahead of Funky. J. Luke in 5th and Papa Squanch in 6th. Look how close the gaps are as those 4 drivers cross the line, Cole. But was there contact between J. Luke and Rich? Will we see stewards come into play?
I have a feeling that might go to the stewards. They looked like they might have been, maybe we're wrong. Maybe J. Luke just lost it on when he put his foot down, but it did appear to be contact, even if it was only minor, that could end up in the stewards. I'm gonna have a little nose, Mike, at the P2 chat. No, I don't think so. J. Luke just said no. The back end was gone by the end. So I'm wondering whether he did drop it on his own. But what a race from Joe. What a perfect strategy.
Yeah, Joe, absolutely fantastic from him. And I wonder what that does now in terms of the mentality for J. Luke now going into the final couple of rounds, because the pressure was on right there. He had the opportunity of closing in on Rich in terms of the championship standings, and from what it looks like from the chat, as you mentioned, it looks like maybe there wasn't no contact, but it looked very close from my angle to potential contact. But if J. Luke dropped it by himself, Is that the pressure getting to him?
It could well be. You know, Rich can be a little bit more cautious in his driving. J-Luke hasn't got that luxury. He's got to go for it. I think he will be disappointed with that. But fair play to Rich. You know, making those soft tyres last. He did 2 laps longer than the guys around him, didn't he? So that was pretty brilliant, to be fair. So, Mike, my question for you, who is your driver of the day?
Well, before we do that, Cole, we got to run through the order one more time. It is Joe that takes victory ahead of M125. Richard in 3rd, Funky in 4th, with J-Luke in 5th, Papa Squanch in 6th, Jamie in 7th, Jess in 8th with the fastest lap, 9th goes to JR Mason, Salu completing the top 10. Outside the top
wrong
10.
Mason, Mike.
Yeah, wrong Mason. Outside the top 10, I believe it was Matthias. I ran out of time, Cole. I ran out of time.
Sorry, you could blame me for that one. But what a race that was. Yeah. Brilliant. And a shout out to the McLaren boys as well. They've struggled really. They've had some brilliant results and they've had some not so good results. That was a very, very solid race from the McLaren boys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was fantastic in terms of the teamwork and that from the McLaren pairing. Both of them inside the top 10, which will help them out massively. And obviously, it's been a very shaky season for both McLarens. Obviously, for JR Mason with how unfortunate he's been over the course of the season, and obviously Jamie has had a very up and down season as well. It's definitely going to be one of those results, I think, for the pair of them where they're both going to be very happy of the points that they've scored in that here tonight. Both of them inside the top 10. Which last time I remember, I don't. Last time that happened, Cole, was round number 2 of the championship.
Oh wow, that long ago.
Yeah, last time.
Oh, so they'll be doubly pleased then. That's a really solid result for them then. Yeah, they'll be delighted. I know they're in a party together as well. So that will probably be a happy party this evening, Mike.
Yeah, definitely, and. Obviously, massive congratulations to both the McLarens on that one. But of course, in terms of driver of the day, Cole, like in my opinion, like I mean, I'm gonna let you go first to pick your driver of the day, but I already have 2 drivers in mind.
So, I'm gonna go. So my driver of the day, for me, it's quite close between my couple of options, but I'm going to go Rich for his high IQ of not getting carried away and overtaking and putting himself under pressure later on in the race. Sat behind J-Luke, waited until that very last lap to have a go. And that was crucial in him extending his championship lead. So my question to you, Rich, at what point when you guys were coming out together on the softs, did you say to yourself, I'm not doing this until the last lap?
Very interesting, very interesting. I can't wait to see what Rich will have to say regarding that. And of course, you actually went for a driver that wasn't in one of my choices, I'm not going to lie.
Oh, wow.
But my driver
Shows
of the
what
day,
I know.
my driver of the day goes to our race winner in Joe, because not only was that a absolute flawless victory from him in the Alpine, but obviously he took a sprint race victory around number 7 at China. This is his first main race victory of the season. So my question to Joe is, massive congratulations. It seemed like you had the perfect strategy. With this victory being the first feature race victory of the season for yourself, do you see yourself potentially launching a late charge to get yourself a top 3 finish, maybe even challenging the likes of J-Luke and Rich in the coming races? So that'll be my question to Joe.
Brilliant. And Joe was my other choice as well. Absolutely brilliant. Gets his first win. He'll be a very, very happy man this evening. And I think, Mike, I'm just going to have a quick look at the standings because he might have put himself into contention for the top 3 with that result. So let's just have a quick look as my tablet decides.
Yes, I believe finished 8th if my memory serves me correct. So, I mean, Joe definitely has closed up. Maybe he might not be exactly ahead of Jess because Jess also got the fastest lap. But maybe maybe he's marginally ahead or marginally behind, but definitely he's closed up massively. He's definitely P4, I think, now.
Yes, yeah, I think he's going to be just knocking on the door of the top 3 now. He's really put himself in contention. He's had a great couple of races, to be fair. He had a bit of a nightmare in round 7. He did win the sprint, but then came 15th, 9th last week, and another victory tonight. So he's really put himself up there.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, that race win at this point in the season is so huge for the psychological game. Of course, we mentioned what this could do with Jay Luke and in terms of he had the potential of getting past Rich, and from the sounds of it, it looks like the pressure might have got to him a little bit and a little bit too much on the throttle. The rear snaps on him and he loses it. What that could do going into the final couple of rounds, but what this could also do for Joe, this race win right here could really send him on a final charge over the coming rounds. And of course, this is round number 9 of course 12. There is no race next week, Cole. We have another break week, but we will be back for round number 10 at Abu Dhabi, and then of course we travel to Miami on the 4th of May, and then we close the season out in Belgium at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps for the season finale on the 11th. But that race win for Joe could really set something up for him, and that little dynamic right now between the Mercedes pairing, what is that going to look like when we head to Abu Dhabi? Are we going to see a Hamilton-Rosberg kind of Abu Dhabi? Like, I wonder.
Oh, it's going to be so interesting. So the drivers have got plenty of time to practice. They got 2 weeks. So I expect to see the drivers on good form. We do obviously have the Easter holidays here in Britain next week, so that's why we're having the week break. But I think Rich will be the happier of the two, obviously, going into this little break.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, he'll be happy he extends his gap on his championship rival in Jay Luke. Joe, though, takes a victory. And what would have been my choice if you had went with Joe would have been the man that came second in M125. He literally threw everything to try and close up at the end. And it just wasn't meant to be, but a fantastic result for M125. Back-to-back great results for him in Japan and here at Bahrain tonight. And it could be the start of him maybe climbing up a couple of positions in the standings later on in the season. But Cole, that brings an end to the action here tonight in P2. Of course, we will be back next in a fortnight's time at Abu Dhabi, but of course there's more action to come here at One Hub, because in around about 20 minutes time, P1 take to the Bahrain International Circuit, and let me tell you, it is the home, the birthplace, the genesis of the Ivor Spin Mike. So we could be seeing some Ivor Spin Mike pirouettes out there on track. You never know. But the only way you're going to find out is by tuning into P1 in around about 20 minutes time.
Oh, well, I am very much looking forward to it. Mike, you had an absolutely tremendous race last week. Got a bit unlucky with the timing of the weather. But let's hope you have another great race this evening with another championship battle between Senna and Craggy. Who's going to come out on top between them?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot to look forward to in P1, as well as a lot to look forward to when we're back in P2 in a fortnight's time. Of course, again, massive shout out to our sponsors and partners here at One Hub Racing. Of course, at Next Level Racing. to Pure Sim Gear, of course, to Vespertwin, as well as Sim Grid, and of course, last but not least, the Mental Health Foundation. If you do need to talk, it is very important to talk to someone if you are suffering. Never suffer in silence. Make sure you talk to someone.
Yes, well said, Mike. We shall all see you in 2 weeks.
Yep, we will catch you in 2 weeks, guys. Until then, it is goodbye from the pair of us. Goodbye.